Hello dancers, welcome to another video. Today we are doing purely a lecture style video, which is a little different. Some of you who are in my current classes or on my online student discussion group, and if you're not, you should join it. It's on Facebook. Check the link down there. You know that I got a concussion at the beginning of the month and didn't rest enough. I thought I did, but I made it worse, so now I'm paying for it. So if you ever hit your head, you be careful about that. But I'm on a couple of weeks of full rest. So anyway, we are going to discuss a really fun topic today that my students helped me pick. So thank you guys for your feedback. And I've got some notes, I've got some coffee, and just settle in with me. Maybe get yourself a notebook as well, because we're just going to be talking theory today. So let's just dive right in. So we are talking about deciding to perform your first solo, developing your first solo, and sort of everything entailed with that. And I'm hoping this video won't be hours long. It's actually really hard for me to sort of narrow my focus sometimes. So I have notes today to help keep me on track, and hopefully that will be a good thing. So I suppose the best place to start, where a lot of my students ask me, especially my students who do private lessons and who do coaching with me, often ask, how do I know that I'm ready to do a solo? Where do I even start? When are you ready? When are you at that level that it's okay or good to do a solo? It's a really complicated question and a really complicated answer, but I would say that when you feel that you're ready for a solo, or if you want to challenge yourself and you want to go to that next level, go for it. Why not? Now, the caveat to that is, it's not so much a matter of, are you ready for a solo and is it appropriate for you specifically to do a solo? The question really is, where is it appropriate for you to do a solo? That is really the question that I would like all of my students and all dancers to consider, more than are you ready? Because you're always ready. If you feel inspiration, and if you feel that you kind of have a little bit of a handle on some things and you want to show it off and you want to practice it at that level, there's absolutely no reason not to. At a hafla or a student showcase or a recital or a community show, there are no expectations. There are no standards. And that is a good thing, that is a beautiful thing, because we do need a place for new baby, green, whatever you want to call them, new dancers to begin. I certainly, my first performances were certainly nothing award-winning or noteworthy. They were sloppy and spazzy and disorganized, but you have to start somewhere. No one starts here. It's sort of, I guess, really a question too is, what are your ambitions and what are your goals with dancing? Are you dancing for fun? Because in that case, do your solo, have fun. That's why you're dancing. If you want to be a multi-award winning competition dancer, okay, great. Well, then you need to go and perform in like the Rising Star or Baby or Soloist, or there are different categories in a lot of competitions that are designed for beginners with 1 to 2 years of experience or even less. And it's a great way to get your toes wet, get some feedback, have that pressure, whatever else. If you want to be a professional dancer one day, then yeah, you need to start your solos. The sooner the better. But you will grow through performing, and you will grow with the setting in which you perform. Now, I will stop here to say it's not appropriate for a first solo to be in the middle of a professional show or at, your sister's friend's wedding or, you know, any professional setting like that, because you're not a professional dancer. And even if you don't charge for that performance, you cannot possibly go to every single person in that audience and say, I did this for free, I'm not a professional dancer, I'm doing this to learn. You know, maybe if you can, cool. But if you're in a setting where people want to be entertained, you really should pass that on to a professional dancer who has more experience. And a really great option is to say, hey, I'm not at that level right now, but my teacher is, or my friend is, or my colleague is, and then ask that person, like, hey, I've got this gig for you. Can I tag along? Can I shadow you? Can I learn from that? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah, sure, let's go. It's actually really helpful for a professional dancer to have someone come with them to help with stuff. And it's such a great way to learn. You will learn about all of the ins and outs, you know, all of the things about being a professional dancer beyond just dancing. But I won't dive too hard into that tangent. Let me know at any point if you want me to elaborate on a certain subject, and I'll make another video about that. But I'm going to try super hard to focus my dazed and concussed brain. So yeah, just be reasonable with your expectations, and be reasonable and be humble with where it is really respectful and appropriate for you to perform for your first time. So now we've got that out of the way. Let's talk about choosing a song. This is always a really big stopping point for a lot of people because it's really overwhelming. There are obviously endless choices. Millions of songs that you could choose from. So I guess the first thing to ask yourself is, what kind of song do you want to dance to? Now, if you're performing at a hafla or a community thing or like a student showcase or a studio event, then really the sky's the limit. You don't even have to choose Middle Eastern music if you don't want to. I recommend it, but you know, you can perform to whatever song moves you. Sorry, my dog got mad at some people outside for daring to walk past our house. Sorry about that. So if you hear her whimpering and fussing, she'll settle down in a minute. Sorry. She's 11 months old. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, sometimes that is a song that has personal meaning, or it is a Western sort of generic pop song, and that can actually be a good choice for first solo because it will inspire you, and it's also very simple. What can be very daunting about Middle Eastern music is its complexity. If you do go for a belly dance song, a Middle Eastern song, a Turkish, or whatever you would like to do, for your first solo it's very important to pick something that is short and is simple. And if you find a song that you absolutely love and it's 7 minutes long, don't do 7 minutes. 1, you're gonna get tired. 2, your audience is gonna get bored, and that's a lot of time to cover. So anyway, I recommend for new dancers to pick a song that's about 3 minutes, 3 to 3.5 minutes. And this is great too because that's actually sort of the target attention span for the average Western audience. So that's good to know if you're going to perform for a Western audience. Middle Eastern and foreign audiences do tend to have a longer attention span, especially over about the age of 40. They do have a longer attention span. But usually short and sweet is better, especially if you're newer, because you just have to understand that you're not going to have as much to put into a song, just vocabulary-wise, experience-wise. So keep it short and sweet for yourself as well as for your audience. Now, of course, your goal isn't necessarily to entertain them in that sense. If it's your first time, it is for you. It is for your own personal development and growth and experience. But it's a bonus if we can entertain people too. We'll talk real quick about props. I think that a prop can actually be a very successful tool for a beginning dancer. A veil is a really good option. As long as you are experienced with that prop, it can actually cover up for a lot of, I don't want to say inadequacies, but I'm having a hard time coming up with other words. So you do I do hope you'll forgive me for my lack of articulateness today. But, so that's a harsh word. We're just going to go with it for now. But, you know, maybe if you're a new dancer who has less than a year of experience, for example, or 2 years of experience, you might not have a huge vocabulary of movements and variations and layers, and you might not be able to do the cool tricks like back bends and splits and jumps and whatever else, you know. So a simple prop like a veil or fan veils, those can actually be very complicated, but you can perform very simply with them, can be a really great way to keep things moving along, to keep you engaged and keep your audience engaged. Just don't rely on your prop. No one wants to see you whirl a veil around and do nothing else for 3 minutes. You still have to dance, you still have to stop the movement of the veil and do something with your body and whatnot. But so props can be a good idea. Just don't go nuts with it. Don't go like trying to play like really complicated zill patterns or do more than one prop, or, you know, just keep it a reasonable level. Structure is something important as well. This is something where musicality comes into play. When you're choosing a song, you should look for a song, like I said, a shorter song ideally, but it should be a structured song that has an opening, a verse, a chorus, another verse, another chorus, another verse, and then like an end. And that's the format that I would recommend for a beginning dancer, because again, with some Middle Eastern songs, some of the more complex orchestral compositions are 10 to 20 minutes long, and even if you get a section of that in a short section, it doesn't really have any repeating elements. And those are the hardest to choreograph because you have to come up with fresh stuff for the whole routine, and that's extremely challenging. So make sure that there's a chorus in there, because the great thing is, and we'll talk about choreography in a second, but the great thing is that once you have your choreography or your structure set for the chorus and the entrance and the beginning and the end, that's most of the work right there. And then you just fill in the gaps and things like that. So we will segue into talking about, should you do choreography or should you improvise? This is such a heated debate, honestly. Believe it or not, within the belly dancing community, there are dancers who refuse to do one. There are some dancers who insist that belly dancing should only be improvisational. And there are dancers who insist that it should only be choreographed. And I'm here on the middle of the fence going, guys, it's all great. One, every dancer is different. Some people are going to have a different strength than other people. Some people, the way their brain works, they will never be able to improvise. I think everyone can learn, but there are some people whose brains are just like, And likewise, there are some people who just can't grasp choreography. That is okay. There is still a place for you, and you can dance in a way that works for you. I think that is just so, nothing is black and white, and dance is art. Art is subjective. And truly with art, there's no right or wrong answer. So you do you, no matter what. Don't listen to haters. No matter what you do, people are going to hate on you for it. I have found this out. So just don't worry about it. Do what you're going to do. People will either love it or hate it. But if you're happy with it, that's what matters most importantly. So, that being said, here is what I think about choreography and improvisation. I would recommend for the average student who maybe falls in the middle of that, leaning towards choreography or improvisation, I would recommend that at the very least you give yourself a structured outline to a choreography. So what that means is that you choreograph or set certain things you might do at certain points in the song, and then you sort of fill in the blanks. This works for a lot of people, especially to sort of try out, do they exceed better with improvisation or with choreography? It's a great way to find out. It will help you stay on track with your song so that you don't lose your place in it, because you're going from point A to B to C to D to E. And in between those milestones, you have some freedom to express yourself in the moment, to play, whatever else. But I also do lean more towards choreography for a first time solo, because when you're soloing for the first time, and this will kind of bleed into my discussion about stage fright and adrenaline, but you really don't know how you're going to respond to a performance setting. Even if you've performed before, if you've performed in a different discipline, or if you've performed a long time ago when you were younger, a lot can change. So I don't say that to scare anybody or make anybody feel like anxious or dread. It's just that you need to be prepared for that possibility. And choreography really does help prevent the deer in the headlights moment where you sort of, everything goes out of your mind and you just blank. And I can tell you, it happens to everybody. I've had it happen, and you never know when it's going to happen. It'll just like, you're fine, and usually that's just like for a split second and you can keep going. But I have also seen stage fright really immobilize people. I've seen people freeze. I've seen people run off stage. I've seen a lot. So, and you know what, that happens. If it happens to you, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean you're not cut out for dancing. It just means that you had a little brain hiccup and you need to perform more so that you get used to that. So we'll talk more about that and dealing with stage fright at the end of the video. But choreography helps prevent that because you feel prepared. Think about the last time you were really stressed out about something. If you were really stressed out about a presentation at work or a project or a report or something like that, the stress usually comes from a lack of preparation. If you do the work a month in advance and you know what you're doing, you're probably not stressing out about it very much. And the same thing goes with choreography. If you prepare, even if you over-prepare for it, you will go in with a lot more confidence. Most of the time. But then again, you know what? If you're one of those free spirit people who really just wants to feel it and channel that inspiration in the moment, then go for it. Don't let anybody tell you should only do one or the other. And hey, if it's a hafla or a low-key event, then just try it and see which one works better for you. If you do attempted improvisation and you feel like you failed at it, well, try choreography the next time. It's really not a big deal. I think a lot of people tend to overthink their solos in the beginning. But then there's also the other side of that. The flip side is that once people kind of get their feet wet, they kind of tend to go like crazy, and then is when they get a little bit like out of hand a little bit. It's like, okay, whoa, calm down. So try to just stay in the middle of the line. Don't get too stressed out, but also don't be going out like, I'm a professional belly dancer now, because that is a great way to make people really mad at you. So take your time, develop yourself, and make sure that you work with guidance, work with peer review, teacher, feedback. There's a whole group on Facebook actually that is about Critique My Solo. I'll leave a link to that because I think that's great, where you can get unbiased feedback from people who don't know you, who don't secretly have feelings for you one way or the other, and they'll give you feedback. You can also send your video to teachers. Hey, you could send your video to me and I'll critique it. But you need feedback from people because we are very poor judges of ourselves. We tend to either be our own worst enemy, or we tend to not really care and just do what we want because we want to do it. So make sure you work with guidance. It's extremely important, especially early on. Oh, let's see. My cat has busted in here, so she might make an appearance. Okay. Let's talk about a few early mistakes, and then we'll talk about the stage fright and adrenaline. So, big giveaways for a newbie dancer tend to be very fast, jerky, frantic movements. And this is because when you're on stage, you're dealing with adrenaline and a lot of pressure. Your mind is going 100 miles a minute. And with adrenaline, one effect that has on the brain is that it slows down your perception of time, which is really weird and wacky. But so you're sort of moving in slow motion, but the problem is that to people who are seeing you, you're not moving in slow motion. So everything feels slower to you, and so people tend to over dance. So really big thing to work on, and even experienced dancers can slow down. I constantly tell myself this as well. Slow down, my God. Give yourself time to breathe. You do not have to feel every millisecond of your choreography or improvisation with like it's like someone who talks too fast. If you talk too fast and you just can't really understand what anybody's saying, and then it just bleeds together into a run-on sentence, it becomes disorganized and choppy and you can't follow. The brain actually has to take time to process when we're watching someone moving too. They say that the hand is, or what is the saying? The hand is quicker than the eye. Very true. You can actually move faster than someone's eyes can process your movements. So really let that sink in too. So go slow down, calm down. You're gonna look a lot more polished and poised and controlled. Even if you're moving a little slow, that's gonna be better than moving too frantically. And I don't know, I personally think it's so much more common to see someone who's ahead of the beat than someone who's behind the beat. And I feel like I would actually prefer to watch someone who's behind than ahead. Both are bad, be on the beat, but just that's really, really common with a lot of dancers, not just newer dancers. Expression is another one. If it's your first solo or even like your first few solos, no one expects you to have like this amazing like actor level Academy Award winning expressions, but you can't go out there with just like the blank face, which is so common. Don't do that. God, at least smile, and smile the whole time. Smiling the whole time is going to be better than just not making a face. So just pay attention to your face, choreograph it in, or at least plan it. If you're going to improvise, plan like, okay, this is a happy part, I'm going to smile really big here, then it calms down, maybe I'll just a closed mouth smile. Think about your expressions ahead of time. I mean, you want to feel it in the moment, but the problem is that with newer dancers, we're focusing on the movement so much that the expressions kind of get left out. So that's a big one. And then the hands are another one. People tend to think with their hands and express nervousness through their hands. For example, like if someone is like, you know, fidgeting a lot or jiggling their foot or like bouncing their knee, it's a sign of anxiety. Here's my cat. It's a sign of anxiety and stress. And when you perform, you do not want to convey stress and nervousness. You want to convey that you are calm and collected. And when people are like pawing their hands a lot and flipping their hands a lot kind of distractedly, and especially it tends to be one hand. If it's a subconscious movement, it tends to be, for me it's my left that I always fight, but it tends to be one hand or the other. Whereas a intentional hand movement will usually be slower, graceful, and both the hands will move together. So you want to watch out for that. And then let's talk about adrenaline. Like I said, the biggest effect of adrenaline is that it speeds, it slows you down, but it makes you look faster. I know that's hard to understand. You are perceiving things slower. If you think about it, if you get adrenaline in like a survival situation, your brain has to be able to identify dangers and ways out of things very rapidly. So you're perceiving things more slowly, but you're actually moving quicker. So what you think is slow looks fast. And I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you need me to clarify that. Leave me a comment if I'm not making sense. But so that is a really big effect. So I call it time warp or time dilation when I'm at a show or whatever else. So you really have to be aware of that, and simply being aware of it will help a lot. Obviously, symptoms of stage fright and adrenaline can make you feel very ill. For me, if I am nervous, I will shake and my nose runs. I don't personally get a lot of nausea. I've never vomited before a show or anything like that, but that is a common symptom. Let's see, other symptoms, sweaty palms, I do get that one. I get like sweaty, clammy hands. Me and some of the dancers I work with, one of my dance friends coined the term spooky poops, because when you get spooked, you need to poop. So you may need to make frequent trips to the restroom. I recommend make sure you always use the restroom before you get your costume on, because you'll regret it if you don't, especially if you have a lot of adrenaline. But there are a few things that I want my dancers to understand that you can also do to mitigate and improve and lessen your symptoms of stage fright in advance. Number one, avoid caffeine and stimulants, and also avoid depressants like alcohol. I know some people really rely on a glass of wine before a show. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, and I don't look down on it, but it can have a temporary effect of making you feel calm, but it can actually lead you to feel more jittery later, because when you introduce adrenaline after taking a depressant, your body has to like double down its efforts. So it can be, depending on your disposition, it can be a really bad thing. What I do recommend that you do instead is drink a lot of water, because the water will help to flush excess hormones. Then starting the day before, really think about properly hydrating and make sure you're not just drinking water, but that you're getting electrolytes as well. So I personally love coconut water, and I always have coconut water, like a big thing of it, when I'm backstage at a show. We also want to look for things that are high in potassium and magnesium. This have two benefits. One, because as an electrolyte, it's going to help you stay hydrated, and it's going to prevent muscle cramps, which is always great. But the other effect of it too is that it's going to help you to feel more calm. Especially magnesium, I think. We can also use deep breathing, and I very often will do this. You don't even have to like sit and do it on its own. You can do it while you're putting on your makeup or your costume. Definitely do it before you go out, because you want to be oxygenated. But the deep breathing will also help to bring you down into a different state of your consciousness, so that you're not up here frantic in the clouds. You can be down here, and I can't remember what they're called. There's like different states. Maybe I'll look it up and provide it in the description. But if you can use your deep breathing techniques, you can really calm yourself, bring your heart rate down, and that's going to help you on stage. That's not to say that you don't want any adrenaline. I actually went through a long period of time with performing where I was performing 2 to 4 times a week on average, and I just wasn't getting any bursts of adrenaline anymore. And I actually took a break, because I was like, okay, I wasn't actually performing at my top level, because the adrenaline does help you. You just don't want so much of it that you feel sick or that you're shaking a lot. It's normal to shake a little bit. Usually, if you can get through the first 45 seconds to a minute, the shaking will calm down after that. So another little tip is make your entrance simple and easy, so that you can kind of get on your legs. You can kind of get rid of that like that anxiety. You can get rid of the noodle leg feeling, which is also common, that feeling that your knees are really weak. So if you like do a big dramatic promenade around the stage, you know, you're making a big deal out of it, but you're also giving yourself a second to like center before you move on to more complicated things. It really helps out a lot. And I actually stayed on all my notes in order, and I think that was everything that I wanted to discuss for now. Just a couple closing thoughts is, you know, be respectful in your approach to dancing, but also don't overthink it. You know, you're not going to offend anybody by doing a solo at a hafla. No one's going to really care about that. And actually, dancers are really supportive if you're just humble and very open about your level of experience. If you say in your introduction, this is so-and-so, she's been dancing for only 6 months, only 2 years, you know, whatever, discovered dance through this, and this is her first solo, or this is only her 5th solo, this is her first time doing this or that. No one's going to give you any grief. Everybody's going to be really supportive. I get really excited. I actually get really teary when I see dancers do their first solo, because it's a big moment, and even if I'm not that person's teacher, it makes me really proud of them and really excited for them on their dance journey to think like, oh, like that's such a special thing. So just, you know, do your best and prepare as much as you can to feel confident, but don't overthink it to the point that you just psych yourself out and you don't do it at all, because there's no point in that. And then bottom line, have fun. What's the point of doing any of this if we're not having fun? Especially if it's not like your career path or whatever else. Like, obviously there's a level of stress for someone who is a teacher or a professional performer or a professional entertainer and things like that. It's not all peaches and cream when it's your job, but if it's not your day job, then oh my gosh, have fun with it, please. I mean, that's why I teach, is so that people enjoy themselves and learn and benefit and get to have fun, but especially with performing, it should be something that is enjoyable for you. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm happy that I can sort of engage in some way with my students, even though I'm actually not even doing my online classes at the moment. For those of you who are new, I do online classes, just not right this second. I'm hoping I'll be able to start again next week, which is the 25th of May, I think. And I can't believe it's even May. It still feels like March. But I also have other videos here on YouTube you can check out if you would so choose, and soon have some exciting news. It's not ready yet. Of course, my concussion has set me back on a lot of my projects, but I am working very hard on creating a section of my website with pre-recorded tutorials that are full-length classes and full-length mini workshops that are just for you guys. I will be charging a small subscription rate per month. I'm thinking $5–10 maybe. Nothing that's going to break the bank, and that's going to give you access to a lot of exclusive content. And subjects that we don't really dive into on YouTube, you know, things that were a little bit more closely guarded, or just full-length things instead of little sampling things. So if you're interested in that, I will be doing a test group that can gain access to it for free as we work all of the kinks and bugs out and kind of give me feedback and things like that. So you will get access to a lot of online content for free if you would like to be part of my test group. So I'm hoping that that will be ready like next month or so June 2020. So if you're interested, send me a message, and also do look up my Facebook group online. It's Northwest Belly Dance Academy Student Discussion Group, and links will be down there as well. I really hate Facebook, but I love being able to connect with my dancers on there, and we do all kinds of fun stuff on there, so I hope you'll check it out, and that's completely free as well. And you can also hit the subscribe button so that you can be part of this free community as well. So thank you so much for watching, and drop a comment if you have a suggestion for another video tutorial. So anyway, thanks very much. Stay healthy and stay dancing. Bye.